So, hi and welcome everyone. My name is Pamela Wagner, and I run Ajala Digital, where we help businesses grow with Google and Meta ads. So, it's now been over 8 years that I've been helping companies grow with Google Ads, starting from working at Google, right? And I reflect a bit on it in the past days, and there's really been a lot of learnings, but I wanted to break it down to the top five learnings for you. And I've also had conversations with, other kind of like marketing agency owners, people that focus on email marketing or SEO or social media, right? And what kind of like stands out to me is that a lot of people feel like they have to spend time doing certain things that they don't necessarily love doing. So, for example, I talked with this one business owner who spends like every week 3 hours in meetings with a client that are absolutely of no value for him and the work. Like they are just eating up his time, and those hours are just lost hours, right? So I think we really need to reflect on when are things relevant for us and when do they not add up to our work? When do they not make our time more efficient? And it really comes down to setting boundaries, right? Like, how do you set healthy boundaries and how do you communicate these boundaries with your clients, with your boss, and so on, right? And I mean, for us, it was pretty straightforward from the beginning. I always wanted to work from wherever, however, with whoever, and whenever. And that was kind of like the guiding principle. So if there was anybody who wanted physical meetings and so on, like I outright declined them 99% of the time, right? So there were a few that I took on, but I noticed in the end, like there was not any difference. You could have done that on Zoom or Google Meet or whatever, right? So be clear about your boundaries, what you want, and then work on a way of communicating that. And the best way to communicate any kind of change with other people, whether that's your colleagues, your clients, your boss, and so on, is to phrase it in a way that it aligns with their goals and with their kind of like ideas and like where they want to go with this partnership that they're having with you, right? So in this specific case, if it's with a client, I would reflect on what is important for the client for our relationship. What do they really want, right? And most of the time, a client wants good results. That's all they care about, right? And so if you phrase it in a way that, look, if I hop off the call for like 3 hours, then that actually frees up my 3 hours to get work done to serve you better, right? So I think one of the biggest learnings is to really set clear boundaries and to determine how you want to work, right? So and those are your boundaries, right? That's not anybody else who can tell you what kind of boundaries those are. Like you have to figure that out for yourself, how you want to work. And I really want to encourage you to go for what you want and go for what works for you because only you know what works best for you. And it doesn't matter what anybody else says. If other people say, hey, go ahead and have like meetings every day of the week, cool if that works for them. But it may be completely different for you, right? So, for example, for me, it works best if I have meetings twice a week on 2 days a week. All the other days I try to keep free to really be creative, to get work done, to increase that value output, so to speak, right? Then the other thing that I noticed throughout the years, right, in helping businesses grow with Google Ads and Meta Ads and so on, is that you really got to feel good first before you can like make your clients happy or your team happy. So you got to invest in your own well-being, right? So whether that's making sure you reserve your mornings every, I don't know, 2 hours in the morning for sports and meditation, or you block off your calendar after 5 p.m. because that's time with your kids, right? Whatever makes you happy, you have to prioritize that because the way you approach things with others is an immediate reflection of your inner state of being. So you really have to make sure you yourself are happy and well first, right? Now, the other aspect that I wanted to stress on here is that success, so being successful with something, doesn't mean you have to work hard. And I see that a lot of times people are getting caught up in, I have to work hard because that's the overall story, right? So when you look at the hashtag hustle hard on Instagram, hard work, it's at like 34 million posts. Like, this is insane. And it's just been growing over the past years because I've actually been observing that hashtag. So it's a narrative that still keeps growing, and it's just mind blowing because our brain, our mind is just like a muscle. It can only grow during times of breaks. So we need to have times where we don't do anything. And what can happen during those times is that even when we take a break, our mind is still working, which means technically we're not taking a break. And that's something that used to happen to me quite often, right? Where I was taking a break and I was not working, right? But my mind still went on. And so I didn't get a break at all. And I think a lot of people are like that when they try to take breaks. It doesn't really reflect on like really being a real break, right? And the other aspect is that I think we really need to rephrase our narrative around what success means to us, right? And how that success comes about. One thing I want you to know is that hard work doesn't always have to lead to success. And the easiest example, probably my favorite example, is if you look at any kind of like billionaire out there, if we're talking in financial terms, they have the same amount of hours a day that you have. There's nothing different. So obviously there have to be different ways of achieving a certain kind of success or a certain kind of wealth, right? And the easiest way to reflect on whether you're like caught up in this like hard work philosophy is to really honestly ask yourself, why are you working so hard? Is it because you have a certain narrative, right, that you probably grew up hearing from parents or colleagues and so on? Or is it because you're trying to run away from something? And that might sound harsh, but actually, a lot of people bury themselves in work to not have to deal with their personal lives, right? So, what really is it that you're working hard for? And like, is isn't there a better way? Like, if you look at other people, we always think other people are so different. But once we realize that whatever other people are doing is available to us, then it becomes much easier to see other opportunities, other roads, other avenues to create whatever you want to create, right? And for me, it really boils down to like life and business design. How do you want to run a business? How does it work for you? It doesn't matter how your neighbor runs his business. It doesn't matter how your aunt runs her business or how someone else works their life. The beauty of these times that we live in is that you can literally design the business that you want your way and have it your way, right? So to like recap a little bit, kind of like the first four learnings, right? So the one is feel good first, right? You have to feel good yourself first. Then you can take care of your clients and everybody else. Because however you feel is an immediate reflection of everything else that's going around you, or vice versa. Everything else that's going around you is actually an immediate reflection of yourself, right? Second thing is determine how you want to work, right? How do you work best? Is it in the mornings? Is it in the evenings? How many hours of meetings does that mean? How much do you want to interact with people and so on, right? The third step is then to establish clear boundaries, right? What are your boundaries that you need to be kept up with in order for you to do good work, in order for you to be happy, right? And the fourth step is that success doesn't have to mean hard work, right? You can determine what success is and you can live and create a business and a life that works for you, right? And the fifth step with regards to Google Ads is mostly about like what I've seen is it mostly works for businesses that have a clear business model and have been making money. So there's a clear revenue there. There's a clear funnel. I know how customers come to me, right? I've proven that whatever product I have, people want and they're willing to pay for it. If that isn't existing, then it's often very, very difficult to measure your success on Google Ads, to optimize it properly, to manage campaigns efficiently. Like you got to be clear on your goal. As long as your target is a moving target, your ads are not going to work the best possible way that they can, right? So really, really make sure that there's a clear business model, there's clear skills, proven business model that works. And then you have a good chance at succeeding with Google Ads if it is the right thing for your company and business. All right. That's it from these 5 major learnings. There's much, much more, but I really wanted to distill it down to like 5 of them. If you want to learn more, then you can go to watch a free like masterclass that we recently recorded, which is called the 5 major Google Ads mistakes that cost businesses time, money, and sales in 2023. And of course, we're going to talk about how to avoid them. And so you can access that masterclass right here. And I look forward to seeing you there and wish you a good rest of the morning, midday, evening ahead, wherever you are.